Hello, folks. Welcome. We're going to wait another couple of minutes to let the group assemble. Get started at maybe 10:02.
In
Welcome, folks. We're still waiting on a few more folks to assemble here, and we'll get started in just a minute. Okay, seems like we're maybe sort of stabilizing here on the number of attendees, so maybe we'll go ahead and get started here.
Amanda, you went to the wrong place.
Welcome, everyone.
No,
Thank you for coming today. I'd ask you to mute yourselves as you join, so we don't have any background noise here. My name is Rhett Lawrence in the Transportation Strategy section at Oregon DEQ. We're excited to be launching the 2025 version of our Clean Truck and Infrastructure grants, including our fifth and final year of the Volkswagen grants that we've been doing. So again, my name is Rhett Lawrence. I will be joined here by some other DEQ colleagues, Tracy Weitzman and Dalton Shepard, to speak on various programs. And we also will be presenting some information from the Oregon Department of Transportation on some programs they're running. And we'll have Jenna Compton and Mary Brazel in the room as well to answer any specific questions about that program. So we're just going to run through a quick presentation here this morning on the various programs that we have available, and then take questions at the end. You can also put your questions in the chat as we go. Maybe we can try to answer some of those as we're going along, but mostly I think the intention is to get through all the programs first and then sort of launch into the Q&A at the end. So I think with that, unless any of my colleagues have anything to add, we can go ahead and get started. So Dalton is running the slides for us. So next slide, please, Dalton. So yeah, again, here we're here this morning to discuss the various clean truck and infrastructure incentives and grants we've got this year. So just a quick overview, and then we'll talk about each of these individual programs separately as we go. So in 2025, we've got about $9 million available for equipment retrofits, repowers, and replacements. We have an additional $4.8 million from a federal grant to do zero emission vehicle scrap and replace grants. We have about $3 million for charging infrastructure, the OZEF program that Tracy will be talking about. And then we have another $17 million for zero emission vehicle rebates, the program, the Zero Fleet program that Dalton will be talking about shortly. So in total, about $34 million available. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview of the timeline here. As most of you know, presumably the DEM, the DERA, Clean Trucks, and OZEF programs all opened last week. The Zero Fleet Rebate program that Dalton will be discussing, we're looking at a sort of mid to late summer launch for that one, so you'll hear more about that later. The intention at this point is to close applications mid-August, August 15th. We have on occasion in the past extended that deadline. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but the intention at this point is to have it open at least until mid-August, and we'll see where we go from there. And then announce grant awards in about mid-October of this year. So next slide, please. First off, we've got the diesel emissions mitigation grants, which includes the old Volkswagen grants that many of you have been familiar with. So including the Volkswagen grants and the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act DERA grants that we also have available. We've got a total of about $9 million from those state and federal sources available this year. These are intended for class 4 to 8 medium heavy duty vehicles, model years 1992 to 2009. Mostly for vehicles. We also have some ability to do some other freight switchers and tugs and forklifts and that sort of thing. So not necessarily just on-road vehicles. We can discuss those details if anyone has questions about those. So these grants are used for vehicle and equipment replacement, repower, or retrofits. And with each of these, each of the replacement and repower options, you do have to scrap an old piece of diesel equipment. So these are available for both electric vehicles and the charging. And for the ZEV projects, can get up to 100% of costs back for public entities and up to 75% for private businesses and individuals. The reimbursement rates for the diesel upgrades, for instance, or DERA projects can vary a little bit, and we can talk about those details if people have those questions. Next slide, please. So the intention this year is to first run all of the applications for these grants through the sort of screening and scoring matrix that we have established for the diesel emission mitigation grants over the last few years. And so all of those applicants will be evaluated for the eligibility based on these factors you see here: the project summary and approach, eligibility and type of equipment, cost effectiveness and air quality benefits, project location for emission benefits, and the applicant and fleet profile. And so then after we run those projects through the sort of DEM screening, then we can sort of sort out which other of those applicants are more suited for the Clean Truck program or for the DERA money that we have available. And so we'll sort of sift that on the back end. So next slide, please. And then, so this new program this year, the Clean Truck program, is sort of an adjunct to the previous DEM and DERA grants. This is from a federal grant, climate pollution reduction grant, which we are now built into our CERTA grants, the Climate Equity and Resilience Through Action grants. So we've got about 4.8 million in this program this year. The priority for these is for class 6 to 8 vehicles based on the project that was funded by the EPA. But we do have some secondary ability to consider class 4 and 5 vehicles. This one is available for model years 1992 and newer. And so this one is different, a little bit different from the DEM grants in that, you sort of have the cutoff of 2009 for the DEM grants. But in this program, if someone wanted to, scrap a 2010 diesel truck and replace it with a new electric vehicle, that would be an eligible expense under this program. And so, but also unlike the DEM program, this is for ZEV replacement only, no diesel upgrades. But you do also have to scrap an old diesel vehicle like you do with the other programs. And this one is available only for on-road vehicles, not for non-road, and charging infrastructure is not an eligible expense under the Clean Truck program. Next slide, please. So again, as noted before, so all the applications will first go through the sort of DEM grant filter, but then those who don't make sort of the cut there, but still are seeking a ZEV replacement, are the ones that we'll be sort of considering for eligibility in the Clean Truck program grants. And the reimbursement rate here too is a little less generous than under the DEM. And so in this case, we can reimburse up to 33% of eligible costs or $130,000, whichever is less. So that is the Clean Truck Program. Now I'll hand it off to Tracy to talk about the OZEF grants.
Thanks, Rhett. So we're excited to launch another round of Oregon Zero Emission Fueling Infrastructure Grants. We have about $3 million to award from federal funding. And this time around, it's specifically for capital improvement projects. So we're prioritizing projects that are installing direct current fast charging, although we will also consider projects that include level 2 charging as well. We're awarding up to 80% of eligible expenses for one DCFC charger. That's $137,000, or $249,000 for two DCFCs. If you had 3 or 4, the same 2 DCFC cap would apply as well. And we're looking at public or private access for projects, hopefully with a fleet attached. Next slide, Dalton. So for what's available for funding, obviously equipment and installation costs can be covered under these grants, but it's not limited to charging equipment. We can fund construction, design, engineering, installation, including trenching, wiring, labor, permitting, networking, and software for the charging equipment. But do note that staff and administrative expenses are not eligible for reimbursement. Any sort of behind the meter costs are what we're looking to fund for these programs. And obviously, if you're looking to fund vehicles, this would not be the program to do that under. Next slide. In terms of criteria for the projects, we're really looking to fund shovel-ready projects where the equipment that you're looking at purchasing can be found under a vetted product list that meet industry standards. Contractors that you'll work with will need to be certified with electric vehicle infrastructure training program credentials. And we want to see that you've talked to your local utility about what the grid connection capacity is, and that you've done at least some sort of high-level feasibility analysis on the site. Potential projects might need additional studies, so if you know that information, please tell us about that. But at least having some sort of conversation started where the utility knows what your project is, and they know what the site electric capacity will be. That's what we want to see. We're also looking to see that you've talked to your local city planning department about the project, and that they've either approved it or reviewed it enough to decide that they don't need to sign off on what the construction plans are. And we're looking for fleet readiness, that the project is going to be supporting using medium and heavy duty vehicles. And so, do you already have those vehicles on hand, or are you in the process of ordering them? Maybe you're applying for other grants to fund vehicles. And we really want to make sure that the projects are scheduled to be completed by December 2027. Additional criteria includes that the location and emissions benefits will happen in Oregon, and we're looking to fund projects where the air quality benefits are happening in communities disproportionately affected by diesel pollution, and we do award additional criteria for COVID certified businesses. For both OZEF and DEM Clean Truck programs, we're using the DEQ Web Grants portal for submitting applications. And you'll want to look for the MHD Clean Trucks and Infrastructure for your area of interest when you sign up on Web Grants. Next slide. And both programs also are using an internal DEQ tool called the Diesel Pollution Priority Areas Map. There's links on both of our program websites to this tool, so you can see where your area site location fits in. This is a tool that we've used in previous years for DEM, and we're using it this year for OZEP as well. And just in terms of what to expect if you get an award, projects only start once agreements are signed. So, and that there's an official notice to proceed that is sent once the grant agreement has been signed by both parties. So any expenses that are incurred prior to a notice to proceed aren't eligible for reimbursement. We request invoices, proof of payment to process reimbursements, and can do that throughout the project lifecycle. And other reporting requirements include quarterly reports, final reports. We love to see photos. And then there's additional reporting requirements for 3 years after project close, where we'll be reporting federal standards back up to the EPA. And I think it's Dalton's turn.
Yes, thank you, Tracy. Hi, everyone. I'm Dalton. I'm the medium and heavy duty rebate coordinator for DEQ. So we've got a new program starting up this summer. Still in development with the site that we're building and stuff. So just a little more patience and we'll have the program up and running. But I'm just going to jump right into it. So the Zero Fleets is the Zero Emission Rebates for Oregon Fleets. It's a program that accelerates adoption of zero emission vehicles through rebates designed for medium and heavy duty vehicles. The total funding amount that we have is $17 million for these rebates, and they range from $2,500 all the way up to $120,000 depending on the vehicle weight class. And that is the GVWR weight class, consistent with the other programs as well that Rhett had mentioned. Prioritizes funding for frontline communities disproportionately affected by diesel pollution, and we will be referencing that same map that Tracy referenced a couple slides ago. And then we are aiming to target at least 40% of rebates for projects improving air quality in these vulnerable areas. Oop. All right, so jumping into the rebate amounts. So these rebates are for Class 2B all the way up through Class 8. And as you can see here, we have them listed out. So 2B is that $2,500. And then starting at Class 3, we jump all the way up to $45,000. Class 4 is 60. Class 5, $60,000 as well. Class 6, $85,000. And then the heavy duty, Class 7, $85,000. And Class 8, $120,000 rebate. For eligibility, purchasers must be an organization such as a nonprofit, government entity, or private entity licensed to do business in Oregon. So this is just for nonprofits, government, or private entities listed to do business. Our dealers must be registered with the Oregon Department of Motor Vehicles and the Oregon Secretary of State, as well as through the portal that we are currently have in development. Our dealers will be needed to register and put into that system. And as I mentioned, our applications will be through a new application portal. If you've seen the light duty rebates website, it's something similar to that. So I don't know if anyone has had experience with that, but that's what we're working towards, is to have a nice accessible portal for everyone. So like I said, this process is currently in development, aiming for later this summer, 2025. And then so the funding is based on the timing of the application for the rebate and when the vehicle is delivered. We understand that with medium and heavy duty vehicles, sometimes there is a window of putting in the order and receiving that vehicle. So you have up to 12 to 18 months to have that vehicle delivered and receive the rebate. Our funding sources, so we've got $3 million from the Oregon legislature and about $14 million in federal funding. Leases will qualify for the rebate with a minimum of a 3-year lease term. And like as I mentioned, the funds are available upon the final delivery of the vehicle. So that means not at the order time will you get the rebate, but the rebate is applied once the vehicle is physically there and ready to take delivery. And again, the 12 to 18 months for the application approval. The original window is 12 months, but we are open for a 6-month extension if need be. Okay. That's all I have for the rebates. Also, I just wanted to mention that if anyone has any questions, you want to be added to the email list, please, you see my email right here at the bottom of this page. I'll also type it into the chat, so please feel free to send me an email if you want to be added to the email list for updates, as well as just any general questions that you might have.
All right, and quickly, I just wanted to go over 4 other programs that our colleagues at ODOT are running to get more charging equipment out across the state. Folks on the call might be interested particularly in the community charging rebates program, which provides rebates for level 2 EV charging stations at multifamily housing, workplaces, and publicly accessible locations around Oregon. Round 3 is currently open, but it's closing next Wednesday on June 18th. However, they're planning on launching a 3rd round of funding as part of SERTA funding opportunities in the fall, which I believe is going to also include rebates for DCFC charging as well. There's the EV Charging Reliability and Accessibility Accelerator Program, aka EVC-RA, which focuses on repairing, replacing, and upgrading existing charging stations to meet NEVI standards. And those funds are fully obligated and available for use. Round 2 is offering a little under $6 million in additional funding, and that round will launch in Q3 of this year. The NEVI program supports fast charging stations along Oregon's EV alternative fuel corridors, and the next NEVI funding opportunity from ODOT is anticipated to launch in late 2025, possibly early 2026. And then there's also the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant Program, where West Coast states received a joint $102 million federal grant to support public, medium, and heavy-duty EV charging and hydrogen refueling infrastructure along the I-5 corridor. And funding opportunities for those site locations are anticipated also in late 2025, potentially early 2026. And I think, yeah, and if you have questions about those programs, Mary Brazel would be the contact at ODOT to discuss those with. And she's on the call if you have questions too today. And then if you need links to some of the web pages that we've discussed, there's the SAM website to find your unique identification number. The business registry is listed. The web grants application website is also here. And if you want more information about other SERTA programs, we also have a link to that website as well. And I think, Dalton, if you want to go to the next slide, I think we're going to open it up for questions about our programs. Here are the other links for the specific DEQ programs that we're running.
Yeah, and we tried to answer some questions in the chat as we went along, so maybe we've dealt with some of these already, but obviously folks can raise their hand now, jump in and ask specific questions or clarifying questions that we didn't quite answer well enough in the chat. So let's hear from you.
Okay, I see a comment here from Vina. As a manufacturer, we are taking EV orders with a delivery in 2+ years. So we request that you consider extensions for up to 1 year instead of just 6 months to be on the safe side. Vina, if you want to go ahead and send me an email, we can talk about that via email if you'd like. If you saw my email listed above, your comment there, and just go ahead and shoot me an email and we can talk about that via email, because right now the program only allows up to 6 months extension past the 12-month mark, so 18 months total. Okay, let's take a question from Terry. Terry, if you want to go ahead and...
I'm assuming it's Terry Manny's.
Terry
M-A-N-I-E-S.
Matthews.
Yeah, that's me. Hi, guys. I am with Orange EV up in California. Michael, Graham, I hear you're on this call somewhere. Hello, miss you guys. Okay. The one that we're just talking about here that you have to sign up for, when is the sign up period? What are the criteria to become a dealer? Can OEMs be listed as dealers? Basically, I work for Orange EV and I'm trying to figure out how do we become a dealer in that program so someone could buy a truck from us.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the dealers, OEMs can certainly be dealers. We just need to get you registered in our site once that is up and running. So what the next step would be is, Terry, if you want to send me an email also, and I will add you to our email list so that you will be among the first people to receive the updates of when that guidance and online application is launching, so that you'll know exactly what you need to do to get registered as a dealer in that system. For sales to businesses, nonprofits, and government entities in Oregon.
Thank you so much. I will do that.
Of course, yeah, I appreciate the question.
And then another question that I had, I was interacting with someone a little bit in the chat. My question was for your on-road program, which I'm scrolling here trying to figure out which one that was. Anyway, often terminal trucks are considered non-road only, but ours can be plated and can drive on road. And so we are sometimes able to put them into on-road programs. So that was my question was, can a terminal truck that's plated be in your on-road program? And there seems to be,
yeah. I think it could, Terry. I'd be interested to look into the details of that a little bit more. But yes, it sounds from the way you describe it like that would be an eligible on-road vehicle for the purposes of the Clean Truck program.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the question.
Sweet. Okay. Well, thank you, Terry. And so we'll jump to the next person, Jane Black with TriMet. Jane, I'm not sure if you're trying to speak, but okay, there we go.
Hi, sorry about that. I just want to confirm that none of these programs are available for hydrogen fueling infrastructure, other than the coming ODOT charging and fueling infrastructure grant program that you mentioned at the end. Is that accurate?
The hydrogen vehicles would be an eligible expense for the DEM grants and for the Clean Truck program. The infrastructure associated with those could only be paid for under a DEM grant. And Tracy, I'll defer to you on whether hydrogen fueling is an eligible expense under the OZAP program. I'm not sure about that.
Jane, I'll have to get back to you on that, but I'm pretty sure that we're just focusing on we're primarily focusing on DCFCs and not hydrogen for this round.
Okay, if you change your mind, please let us know. Thank you. I appreciate being able to be a part of the webinar.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jane. And we'll move to Odette, if you'd like to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Hi.
Odette. Yes.
Okay, so Odette from City of Eugene. Just have a question. So if we apply for a grant to replace our old diesel vehicle, it's a requirement to scrap the old vehicle? And what are the requirements for scrapping a vehicle? If you could speak more to that.
Yes, for many of these programs, for the DEM grants, DERA, and Clean Truck, there is a requirement to scrap the old vehicle. We did place in the chat the scrappage requirements. Generally, it's split the frame rails, put at least a 3-inch hole in the engine block. We certainly have had other folks. I was just out with another attendee here, Michael Graham, a few weeks ago at a grantees site where they, basically just took a large piece of equipment and just, ripped the vehicle and the engine in half in front of us. So, we have some, sort of listed out scrappage requirements, but, there are also ways that we can verify that the vehicles have been taken out of service. So that is true. The scrappage requirements for those three programs. For Dalton's rebate program, there is no scrappage, I believe, and so that's one benefit of that program potentially.
Okay, and just a second question: is there a copy of a draft grant agreement that we can also? Is it available on the website?
A draft grant agreement, like looking to
If-
see what I'm sure we could provide, sort of a template grant agreement for what they would look like. It's pretty, standard boilerplate government contract stuff. But if you sent me an email, I bet we could dig up a template that we could share with you.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
All right, thank you. And it looks like we've got another question from Terry Mannies. If you want to go ahead and you've got the floor.
Hi, I'm back. Can customers purchase, I hate to call them used vehicles, but I guess they kind of are. We were a little unsure. One of my colleagues asked a question there, and can we sell someone a used terminal truck?
I'll speak for the Zero Fleet program. It's only for new vehicles. So that's at least for the rebate program. It is only
Okay.
for new vehicles.
Okay. For any of the other programs?
And on the other side of it, I mean, I think, I think those vehicles would, any like newer than, 2009 vehicle, sort of an upgrade to a zero emission vehicle would generally be an eligible expense. Doesn't have to be brand new model.
Okay.
So, but we potentially should discuss that more depending on what you were discussing.
Sure. Yeah. And we can talk about that offline. I don't want to take
Great.
too much of everybody's time. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Sweet, great questions from Terry. Appreciate those questions. And so it looks like we've got another question. Vina, I just saw that you put your hand down. I don't know if you still have the question or not, but if not, then you don't have to say anything. If so, feel free to take the floor. Oh, yeah, go for it. If you'd like to, Vina, or I'm sorry if I mispronounced that at all. You've got the floor, Vina. Your mic might be muted. I'm not sure if you're trying to speak in the moment, but we're unable to hear you if so. Vina, do you have a question? Okay, gotcha. Thank you for throwing that in the chat. Do dealers apply for the rebate? So if you are trying to sell a vehicle to someone that might qualify for the rebate, then we will have you registered in the system for that rebate. If you as the dealer, as the business, would like to buy vehicles yourself, you certainly could qualify for that rebate as well. So it just depends which aspect. As long as you're a registered business in Oregon, then yes, you can apply for the rebate if you are looking to purchase vehicles for your lot or for anything like that. So otherwise, we just have you, if you're looking to just be in the system to sell, we just have you go ahead and input your information and all the necessary documents to prove that you're a business like you say you are and things like that. And that process will be more fleshed out in documented form as we get a bit closer to the user guide becoming available for the online application. But more or less, you don't necessarily need to apply to be the dealer, but we do have some qualifications that must be met in order to be the dealer. So hopefully that answered your question. And if not, again, my email is pinned up at the top, so feel free to shoot me a message anyways, and we can always talk about any other questions you have.
And I wanted to jump in here real quick to correct a statement I made earlier. Upon further investigation under the DEM program, only new vehicles are eligible for purchase. So my apologies, Terry, in saying earlier that a used vehicle could potentially be used as a replacement.
Sad, but apology accepted.
Gotcha. And I'm just going to repeat this out loud in case anybody needs the information, but just reiterating that the rebate program does not require any sort of scrappage. So just had another question about that in the chat, so just wanted to say that out loud really quickly. All right, go ahead, Terry.
I have a lot of questions. Sorry. I think what she was asking was on the scrappage on the program that you were just talking about, is the actual applicant, is the buyer of the vehicle the one that submits the application, or is it the dealer that is selling the vehicle that submits the application?
Oh, yes, that's a good question. So yeah, the applicant buying the vehicle will submit the application. However, it will be connected to the dealer selling the vehicle. So the application will be tied to the dealer and the vehicle, so that everything will be connected. So if that helps you, so that way, like the payments, can go directly to the dealer, or if just depending on the situation. But yeah, so it's all going to be very closely connected, and the dealer will be able to access all the applications with their dealership and the vehicles that they're selling. So it'll be pretty transparent on both sides for the dealer and the applicant. That was a really good question. Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Thank you for answering.
And I see a question from Michael Graham in the chat. If I'm following your question, Michael, which is for the Clean Truck program, can the new funded vehicle be used in an off-road application, i.e. not plated with ODOT, if an on-road engine was scrapped with the proposed scrap vehicle? I think it is, as long as it is, well, if I'm understanding your question, not plated with ODOT is like, so it would not be otherwise considered an on-road vehicle. I mean, that is a requirement for the Clean Truck program, that it be considered an on-road vehicle. I mean, an on-road vehicle that was used for an off-road application, I think would be fine. But if the sort of way that you would assess whether something was an on-road vehicle was that it was plated with ODOT, then I think that would not be eligible under the Clean Truck program, if I'm understanding the question correctly. And feel free to jump in to clarify if you have more questions.
Yeah, thanks, Rhett. It's kind of confusing to type out. I'm curious, kind of in the yard truck example, if let's say an on-road vehicle were scrapped, could the new vehicle, such as a yard truck, be used in an off-road application that doesn't have a license plate with ODOT? So that new unit wouldn't be DOT compliant, but the scrap unit was DOT compliant.
That is a good question, Michael. I think I'm going to have to.
We can follow up later too. I don't want to.
Yeah,
put you on
let me dig into that. I mean, I think the answer is this program wants to only fund on-road vehicles. So ones that are sort of registered as such. And so, but yeah, let's discuss that further.
May I ask the second question?
Yeah, go for it, Michael.
Dalton, for the Zero Fleet program, is it required for the applicant, the fleet, to apply and receive a rebate that's connected with a dealer, or could they apply for a rebate that isn't connected to a dealer?
The purchase has to come from a registered dealer, so that therefore makes it kind of mandatory that it is connected to a dealer, so that we can verify the purchase and also, meets all the requirements for the Oregon businesses, and also to make sure that the dealer is a registered dealer to sell vehicles in Oregon.
Thanks. Another follow-up there. Let's say they secure a rebate that's connected to a dealer. Can they choose another dealer manufacturer down the road?
Yeah,
once they have the
absolutely.
rebate in hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So the rebate, that would require a new application for the rebate. So that means that, if they decided not to go through with the rebate with dealer A and they actually want to get a truck from dealer B, then they would have to apply for that rebate with dealer B as attached to their application, if that makes sense. And a business also, just because you bought with one dealer, like if you want to buy from 5 separate dealers, each applicant is allowed up to 5 rebates. So, if you want a different truck from each dealer, then that's fine too. It's just each of those dealers would have to have, a separate application, of course, for each of those rebates. And even if they were with the same dealer, they would still require individual applications. So hopefully that answers your questions on both sides. Yeah, so you can't like transfer it, but you can purchase from different dealers if you choose to do so, even if you've already gotten one rebate through a purchase with dealer A. You can still go to dealer B and buy an additional vehicle with a rebate.
I think I'm a little confused. So if I reapply because I don't want to go with dealer A that I used in the original rebate application to win the rebate, and I now want to go with dealer B, if I reapply, do I lose my spot in line, or do I automatically keep my eligibility that I secured a rebate in the first place, and it's just kind of like a paper process?
Yeah, I think that'd be more of a case-by-case basis, depending on the priority level and the amount of funding that we have available in the moment. Most likely, if that happens, we're gonna likely be able to work it out, and it's still gonna be able to be processed. But yeah, so that would just be more on the case-by-case basis that we work through those details together. But I don't see it being too much of an issue. I think it's very possible. But if we were getting to a point where funding was getting expended towards the end of it, then we would have to prioritize based on the location and the marginalized, highly affected communities and things of the sort. But if you already approved for one rebate and decided not to go through with it, then that application would essentially just need to become void, and then a new application would need to be submitted.
Okay, thanks.
Of course, yes. And so I've got another question here about rebates. Each rebate will be applied as and when the purchase contract is signed. What is the period of funding for the rebates? 1 year or when the funding is depleted? So the rebate is a one-time amount that gets applied to the price of the vehicle that is being purchased. So that will be paid out whenever the vehicle is delivered. So you may have signed a contract to purchase the vehicle, but it's going to be another 12 months to receive the vehicle. You will need, that payment will not be made until the vehicle is delivered, and is physically there and available to take delivery of it. So yeah, once that rebate is given and paid onto the vehicle, that is the one-time payment, and it is done. And yeah, so that would, in theory, just come off the top of the price of the vehicle that you're purchasing. And so I've got another question for the rebate program. Will there be limits to the number of rebates a fleet or OEM can reserve at any given time? Yes, that number is 5. So 5 rebates per applicant.
I also wanted to jump back in here to further clarify the question from Terry about the new versus used vehicle issue. For the DEM grants, the old Volkswagen grants, it is clear that those apply only to new vehicles. I do think we'll have a little bit more flexibility potentially under the DERA and the clean truck programs. They don't come with quite so many requirements in terms of the scoring, sometimes many more requirements in terms of the paperwork involved. But there could be some potential eligibility to use used vehicles for those. So, maybe Terry, we can talk offline about what that kind of situation might look like. But it is not allowed under DM, but could be allowed potentially under DRR or clean truck. So, just wanted to put that out there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify additionally, just some more questions. So if you are the dealer in regards to rebates, if you're the dealer selling the vehicles, there's no cap on the amount of vehicles that you can sell. If you're looking to purchase vehicles, there's a cap on the amount of vehicles that you can purchase with the rebate. So yeah, if you're the purchaser, you can apply up to for 5 rebates. And I appreciate your question, Vina, and just to further clarify. So yeah, if you're a dealer and you have, if you can sell a million cars if you want, in theory, I don't know if there's enough rebate funding for that, but yeah, so the dealer can sell as many as, they can get out the door that qualify for the rebates. It's just, yeah, the applicant and the purchaser that has the limit. Go ahead, Michael.
Can you remind me what the funding source is for the Zero Fleet program, and can it stack with other federal programs?
Yeah, absolutely. I sure can. Let me go back to the slide here just for a visual reference. So yeah, we have $3 million from the Oregon legislature and $14 million in federal funding through the CERTA program. And what was your second question there? I'm sorry.
The stacking with other federal funding.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you can. There is ways to stack it with other federal funding. For example, the OZEF funding for charging infrastructure is a good way to stack to get infrastructure for your site, plus, rebate on the vehicle. And maybe Rhett can clear up. I'm not sure if we're able to stack with something like DEM.
Yes. My understanding is that we can't stack funding sources from the same, like we can't stack clean truck and DERA, or I think probably the rebate and DERA, but we can stack VW and like a federally funded program. So those can be stacked. Two federally funded programs cannot be stacked on each other, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. Federal don't mix typically, except for the tax credits. Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Okay, we've got another question about, I'm assuming it's probably relevant to rebates. What's the process to get approval as a dealer? So that process will be released as we get closer to the launching of our web portal. So Vina, like I mentioned before, if you want to send me an email, I'll be sure to add you to that list so that you can get all the criteria emailed directly to you as soon as it becomes available. And then it will all be laid out for you so that there's no guessing or questions. But essentially, we just need you to boil it down, prove that you're registered to do business in Oregon, that you're registered with all the appropriate agencies, and that's essentially it. We just need to verify that you're a dealer who's legally allowed to deal. So that boils it down to be pretty simplistic, but like I said, there'll be a laid out documented process for you to follow, so you don't have to have questions while doing that.
So we're happy to hang out for as long as people continue to have questions. But if people don't, we'll also give you back your 10 minutes of time. So we'll just hang on here for a few more minutes, I think, to see if folks come up with other questions. But really appreciate everyone's turnout today. Really great questions. Helps us to, sort of get a better handle on the sort of interconnections between all these programs to have the questions coming from you folks. So appreciate your attendance and look forward to getting applications from as many of you as possible. So we'll hang out here for a couple more minutes. I see a question from Odette about we can provide a copy of the PowerPoint to anyone who wants it. Happy to do that.
Can you pop the link to the Zero Fleet rebate website in the chat, please? I keep trying to click the screen, but clearly I can't click the link on the screen.
Yeah, so the site that's currently linked is just to the rulemaking
it's
page.
The rulemaking site. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we might have already chatted via email, but I've got some additional documentation I can send you. I'll add you to the email list so that whenever that site becomes live, we'll definitely get it out in that initial email so that everyone has access to it.
Sure, that makes sense. And then I guess to expand on the original question I posed on being able to swap dealers. So I guess my concern would be that you get pitched by a salesman that the manufacturer can say put an electric truck together with an EPTO, an electric power takeoff. But when you get the rebate and go to order the unit, maybe the factory doesn't actually provide an EPTO for that platform. And so if you can find another manufacturer that will do an EPTO on a truck, I'm curious if you can just transfer the rebate to that new manufacturer.
It would have to be a whole new application.
Okay.
Yeah, and the rebate won't be paid out until the vehicle is physically delivered.
Okay. Is there a way to change that?
No, so the vehicle has to be physically delivered for the rebate amount to be paid. However, your rebate reservation, if it goes through and is approved, and that would be kind of like one of those special things where we would have to work individually. But if you've already been approved for a rebate reservation, there's high likelihood that I can just maintain your place in line more or less, and we can get that new application into another dealer. It would just have to be a new application that has to be kind of all of your basic info will transfer, but the like dealer information, the vehicle information, things like that will have to be put into a new application. But that doesn't mean that your spot in the reservation would be, you're not going to the back of the line if for whatever reason the dealer can't come through for your original product reservation. So that would be, kind of something out of your range. But ideally through like the dealer approval process, we won't run into that a whole lot. But yeah, definitely willing to like work on a case-by-case basis with, purchasers who run into sticky situations, especially because this is a new program that we're doing. So yeah, there is some fluidity to it and ability to make it work, if that makes sense. But yeah, just awesome. As far as like a direct transfer goes, it won't function as just, swapping dealers out.
Sure. Yeah, you all have been so flexible with all of the other projects, so that I totally believe what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. And I imagine we'll probably run into a couple things, that we haven't experienced before because, like I said, this is a new program. So I think, that flexibility is essential to make it successful. So I appreciate the question.
Of course. Happy to help. All right, take care, folks. Thank you again.
Thanks to you, Michael. Thanks to everyone for coming out today. It sounds like we're kind of hitting the end of the road here, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Obviously, feel free to reach out to us individually on our particular programs, or reach out to the diesel grants at deq.oregon.gov email address with more general questions, and we will get back to you on it. So thanks again for coming out, everyone, today. Let us know how we can help, and look forward to getting a bunch of applications in.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.